Hello and welcome to another episode of Out Loud. I am your host, Anthony Parker. Now, 2020 has certainly been a year of unprecedented times. How many times have you heard that one? And we are still living through this pandemic. It's going to take our work in continuing to practice social distancing and wearing our masks to keep our loved ones safe and healthy. Now, you may recognize today's guests as they're all familiar faces to the show. And since the last time we saw them, they have continued to expand on their voices and work even during the pandemic. Our first guest joining us today is the creator of LECHEweare and known as Mr. Light and Love, Eddie Pabon. Hello, Eddie. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Ann. Thanks for having me back on.
Yes, thanks for being here. The last time we saw you, you were here to talk about your book, The Sun Will Rise in December. That's a memoir on your life and is truly, truly inspiring.
Yes, it's the second anniversary, actually. About a week ago was the second anniversary of The Sun Will Rise in December. And it's been such a blessing. It's been such a journey. Shout out to everyone who's been showing love to the book. If you haven't read this yet, definitely go and check it out because there's some inspiration here or a message for you.
Certainly, it's a great book. And yeah, I've been seeing online all the great feedback it's just continuing to get. It really is, a touching story.
It's overwhelming how much love I've been getting out of this, which is why I've started LECHEweare, which I'm excited to talk to you about today.
Yes, let's jump into that. Well, let's talk about LECHEweare. You started this during the pandemic, right? At the beginning of it, I think I remember seeing you, started with the Facebook group, and it's really grown from there. So just start off, tell us what LECHEweare is.
Yes, Leche. So LECHEweare, or LECHEweare, if you want to sort of play it on the words, is an acronym, right? Last I was on your show, I talked about practice, which was patiently repeating altruistic challenges to inspire core excellence. It's sort of like a core value for me in my life experience. And so I want to get to Leche, right? Leche is another acronym. I love acronyms. So it's for love, energy, community, healing, and empowerment. And it's all about shifting the perspective. So when you hear Leche, initially you're like, wait, milk, what's that, right? I've got your attention. There's nothing provocative here happening except something quality and something that you should be paying attention to. And that's a mindfulness community. So LECHEweare is really a mindfulness community. It's a free platform. Anyone can join, no matter who you are and where you're from. And it's all about mindfulness empowerment. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is bringing your attention into the present moment, right? And so if you do that, if you shift the perspective a little, right? And you meditate and you practice mindfulness, then you can plug into the love energy that you have, right? And that's sort of like my little meditation man, the symbol, it's what it stands for. So LECHEweare has been such a blessing. There's so much that's come out of that. And I want to thank everyone for showing love to it and coming up. But I started the community, like you said, in May. And I was like, I hope people are receptive to this, like this whole mindfulness thing, right? Because there's so much value there. And as somebody who has experienced so many levels of deep trauma and hardship, which we already talked about in The Sun Will Rise in December, I wanted to give tools back to the community. Yes, I wrote my book and people were being inspired by that, but I didn't give anybody any tools. I didn't really take you through how I got through storm, excuse my language, of what was, right? And so I've been meditating for years, and I recently became a certified meditation coach. And with that, I've been teaching people how to meditate. With LECHEweare, I do meditation videos, affirmations videos. They're free. They're on LECHEweare's YouTube. You can check them out. They're available to anybody who needs to de-stress, recenter. We're doing hikes, all kind of stuff. The idea is, if you practice mindfulness, if you practice self-love and bringing your awareness into the moment, and you plug into love energy, you give yourself love, you take time for you, and that will automatically plug you into community, healing, and empowerment. You're empowering yourself to be a part of the community and give back in ways that you couldn't before because you maybe weren't giving yourself time to heal, right? And take time for you. So this is really a platform about like redesigning what you think about selfishness and giving yourself some self-love, looking in the mirror and taking time to practice mindfulness to get to Leche. Yes?
I love it. Wow. This is a whole thought out process. I love it.
Yeah, but it's really just about practice. I want to empower people to, in whatever way, shape, or form, we're going through a pandemic right now, and I only have a few minutes on this segment with you all. So yes, check out LECHEweare. Yes, practice mindfulness. But I also want to give you some tips about how to sort of cope with the pandemic, if
Good.
you
And
will.
we're going to get into that. We'll get into that in the next segment. I want to talk about your mindfulness hikes that you do, because that's great. You know, being a pandemic, we have to socially distance and everything,
Yes.
but this is a great way for everyone to get outside and still be around people and meditate. So tell us about them.
Yes. So this was one of those things that was divine. It sort of happened. I didn't plan it. You know, I started LECHEweare. I went on a hike with an organization called OutLoud.com. Shout out to Al and Anna, Outer There, the creators. They do all sorts of things: kayaking, you know, skydiving, hiking, caving. So I went on a hike with them, and Al, the founder, asked if I could do a guided meditation at the top of the hike. I did, and everyone loved it. And so he was like, dude, this is like powerful stuff. We've got to share this with people. So he booked a slot for me on the Outer There calendar. Once or twice a month, we do a mindfulness hike, and they're in different locations in the tri-state area. We adhere to COVID-19 restrictions. Everyone's wearing masks. There's limited space availability in the transportation. We social distance. We keep hand sanitizer, all the things. But we also practice mindfulness and have meaningful interactions and empower one another on these hikes. So we have some physical activity. You get out. You get to get away from all the stress and noise of life, and join us on these adventures, I like to call them, because they're all unique and beautiful. They've been selling out. We've done about 6 of them. We have another one coming up. And they're always on the Outer There calendar revolving. As long as I'm able to do these things and Outer There wants to have me, they're available. So the mindfulness hikes are at outerthere.com. You can check them out. Or go to LECHEweare.com, click events, and you'll see more information.
Now, there is also another aspect to LECHEweare, and that's the podcast that you do, which thank you for having me on. Talk to us about the LECHEweare podcast.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. So the LECHEweare podcast is an extension to the concept, right? Building community, interviewing and engaging myself within my own capacity, right? And I empower every member of LECHEweare to do the same, to engage with others who represent love, energy, community, healing, empowerment in whatever facet, like you do, right? You bring Leche to the LGBT community, another acronym. So, you know, we're sort of doing the same work, and I want to give a platform like you do, right? Thank you for having me on your platform, and thank you for doing the work that you do, because you gave me a voice, and I want to give you that. I want to interview you on mine. But the podcast is really that. It's an extension to give community leaders, people who are empowering others, who are doing the love work, right? A part of my love circle, to come on and just talk love energy, to give tips and advice to people for free. Yes?
That's great. That's awesome. All right, well, we got to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll have more with Eddie.
Our fight against coronavirus isn't over. Let's wear face masks in public. Stay 6 feet or more from others. Follow state and local guidelines. And wash our hands frequently. Let's move forward together. Learn more at coronavirus.gov.
Hello and welcome back to OutLoud. We are here with the creator of LECHEweare, Eddie Pabon. Now, Eddie, we're living through a pandemic, as we've said, and this has really, you know, taken a hit on a lot of people's mental health, understandably so. And you talk a lot about mindfulness. So I want to talk about that first for people out there who may not exactly, know what the practice of mindfulness is.
Yeah, most people are like, my mind is full. I'm already doing that. No, that's mindfulness is simply awareness, right? It's bringing your awareness into the present moment. It's the practice of doing such things. And there's many different mindfulness practices, right? I empower you to go check them out. Just simply Google search mindfulness practice, or join LECHEweare.com, and then you can see some of the content that's on there, right? But it's that practice of bringing yourself into awareness. And I think oftentimes when we are so caught up in our day-to-day and the pandemic and fear-based energy, then we lose track from our Leche. We lose track from our love energy. We disconnect. We feel lost. We feel confused. We feel depressed. We feel anxious. We feel out of control, right? And that's perfectly normal. So the first thing you want to do is just give yourself some credit, right? For being okay in the moment. Take notice of that. Like, separate yourself from the idea of the pandemic, from the idea of all the troubles of your life, and bring yourself into this very moment. If you're watching this right now, you are okay, right? The floor is supporting you. You can see this, you can hear us, you're doing good. So start to count the things that are going right? Take notice of things that are going right, and then you'll start to forget about the things that are going wrong. It's sort of like a mind game with yourself, right? But why not tune into what's going right? Why go into this low vibrational, depressive state of just wallowing in everything that's fear-based? And there's a lot of fear-based consciousness right now in our society, right? So that's the first thing. Take time for self-care. Once you've brought yourself into the moment, you've already taken a little bit of self-care for yourself. Take a hot bath, read a book, do something, take a new hobby, right? Take advantage of the time that you have. A lot of us are like, what do I do? What do I do? Well, what have you always wanted to do? Ask yourself that. Maybe we're not able to work, and that might be a bad thing, but what if it's a good thing? Because now you have time to explore yourself more, to sit with self and to just love yourself and empower yourself to be greater than you already are. Yes. And that takes practice. Give yourself credit. You're doing the best that you can. Right. And then try something different, like mindfulness, hiking, join a community of empowerment, stay virtually connected. We can't physically connect, but we can stay connected in this capacity, right? So do that for yourself. Do that for yourself every single day. Show up for yourself first, practice, be mindful, and lastly, try to be physically active. I think that a lot of the times we're so caught up, like I said, in the drama that we don't take time for ourselves, and we sort of stay stuck and we're fearful and we're not physically moving, and our bodies are designed to get those things that feed us going as we move, as we take care of ourselves, as we eat, healthy. So just pay attention to self. Take time in this pandemic to be just a little bit selfish, right? Socially distance, practice respect to everyone else, and be responsible, but also love yourself and give yourself credit. Just look in the mirror and say, you've got this. And even if that means, maybe staying in bed, but reading a book while in bed, it's a challenge for some people, but for me, it's all about trying new things, mindfulness practice, staying engaged in a community of support, and loving yourself.
That's great. Now, I'm just curious, do you have some sort of meditation routine that you do for yourself?
Every day. So I start out my day with 20 to 30 minutes of mindfulness practice, 20 to 30 minutes of a virtual reality workout, something that I've been doing lately. I do the hikes, and I do podcasts, and I do things that are stepping out of my comfort zone, but being available to my community. I feel like mindfulness practice is the answer. And if we taught everyone mindfulness practice and we all practice, we'd be such a chill, peaceful, love-based society. There'd be so much more community and connectivity. And I empower you to try that for yourself. It feels really good.
I want to thank you for continuing to put, great energy and positivity out into the universe, because it's what this world needs, especially with what we're all going through right now.
My pleasure, Anthony. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing the same. If you're listening to this, I want you to know that you are limitless, light, love, and potentiality. Do the work, practice, and everything else will unfold. Namaste.
Yes. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Thank you, Anthony.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
If you love concerts and live theater, going to baseball games, and eating in restaurants, inside, if you love parties and the small talk with the guy who makes you iced coffee the right way, then wear a mask and let's beat this virus so we can get back to the things we love. Be New York tough. Mask up, America.
Hello and welcome back to Out Loud. I am your host, Anthony Parker. Now, the last time we saw our next guests, they were creating conversation on reclaiming terms used within and against the LGBTQ+ community, and they've only continued to expand their conversation around the queer community since. Returning to talk about their new and exciting projects, art director Geoff Peckman and program director James Young from Queery. Hello, Geoff and James. Welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks. Good to see you.
So the last time we saw you, you were here talking about your project, Sticks and Stones, that creates conversation around reclaiming derogatory terms. Yep, there we go. Around, we're in reclaiming words that are used within and against the LGBTQ plus community. And that was a very in-person sort of experience, where people would look at the images and discuss, how it affects them and, what meanings it may have to them or, based on experiences they've had in their life. But the world has changed since then, and we're not, meeting in person. We're doing, everything digitally. But you have continued to, spread your message and your mission. And one of your latest projects are your greeting cards called Queer Mark, which I believe you started for National Coming Out Day, correct?
That's totally correct. So National Coming Out Day, we're in our 32nd annual National Coming Out Day this year, and Jeff's holding up our thank you for coming out cards. How sweet is that? And what we did was, because we're Queery, which is a mashup of queer theory, we wanted to do something related to that. And when I think about National Coming Out Day, I think about how everyone needs to come out, and the more we come out, we will have more visibility, and I think that's great, but it's one more thing we're putting on LGBTQ folks, like do one more thing, right? And so as we were playing with this idea of National Coming Out Day, with a little research with Dr. Dorothy Riddle, who is a phenomenal person. She was part of the board that took homosexuality out of the DSM, like made it not a disorder. She created this thing called the Riddle Scale. And in the Riddle Scale, they talked about how tolerance and acceptance, which is what we're fighting for all the time, that's still on the low end. Like we really want nurturance. We want admiration. We want support. We want appreciation. And that's how we came up with this project. We said, maybe what we could do with this National Coming Out Day is ask people to thank someone for coming out to them. Imagine that, Anthony. Imagine you come out to someone and they're like, wow, thank you for telling me. Thank you for sharing your journey with me. And they send you this card in the mail. Could you imagine?
No, that's so sweet. I mean, coming out is, still such a big thing for a lot. We're not in a society where coming out doesn't exist yet. It's still a very big thing for a lot of people, and it could also have it could impact and change their lives afterwards, So, but I think to receive a card like that is so sweet and heartwarming. So that's great. And go ahead.
Part of that is, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had the experience where I come out to someone and they'll say stuff like, oh, please, we were waiting for you, or, oh, I didn't know, you look so straight. Like they have all these other things that they might say. And we wanted to give people, this is what you should do, right? Like you should say thank you. And creating the cards wasn't just about getting the cards out there. It's creating this mindset. When someone comes out to you, you say thank you. That's how it works. You know what I mean? Like to give people something to think about in that way.
The other thing is that people have to come out constantly, where, you don't just come out once and you're done. You're coming out over and over again. Every time you change jobs, you might be coming out there with meeting new family members or a spouse and other things. So it's a constant process.
It's true. And I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was first coming out. I mean, that I knew it was just something I knew I just didn't want to hear from people. I just didn't. And, that's an experience for a lot of people. So this also kind of helps, educate people and say that, thank someone for coming out, that they trust you enough to tell you something like this. That could be so deep and personal to them.
Yeah, and with this project, we wanted to get 100 cards out, right? Just to have that conversation. And what we found was a lot of people loved this project. And I contacted the school I work at, Monroe College, and they were so awesome. They said, let's do a program around it. Let's not just do cards. Let's do a whole program. We want to give these cards out to our students who are out. And so we had a whole conversation about that, about outing, right? If you're sending cards to someone's house, you might be outing them depending on who they live with. If you give it to them in public, that might be problematic as well. So we also gave them language, right? We told them that you could say stuff like, you can appreciate their strength and determination and vulnerability, right? And their grit for coming out over and over and over again, for choosing to be their most authentic selves when the world denies their identities, Yeah. So those are some things that we wanted to give them the language so that they could use that.
That's great. Now I want to talk about, with the holidays coming up, the holiday cards that you've created as well.
Yeah, so we have two generic cards. One looks more generic. One is that that purple generic card that you see, happy holidays and all that. But our cards really are focused on one idea. Around the holidays, we think of family, right? And as a queer person, when I think of family, I think about my family of choice, because not everybody has the same access to biological and therefore family of origin. So having a family of choice makes a difference, right? Being able to feel like you are part of my family, whether they are or not blood related. So these cards highlight that. So if you look at this first one, you'll see how it says all these wonderful holiday-ish things, but then it highlights family of choice. And our second generic card literally says, this is your generic card, but if you look really closely, you'll see how there's a rainbow progress stitching in it. And in it, it says, missing your face, missing your voice. So glad you're part of our family of choice. And in regards to thinking of family, we want to extend that to those who are in the homeless, or who are experiencing homelessness. LGBTQs are there's 40% of New York City homeless youth are LGBTQ. So 50% of the proceeds have been donated from this project, has been donated to Ali Forney Center. And we're going to continue this project through the end of December. For anyone who wants to get their cards, they can go to our website for that.
That's awesome, especially, with the pandemic, going on. Homelessness is something that's been more on the rise. So that's awesome. This is a great, wonderful cards for a great cause. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we'll have more with Geoff and James from Queery. Hello, and welcome back to OutLoud. We are here with Geoff Peckman and James Young from Queery. Now, I want to talk about another project that you guys are doing, and it's a pronoun challenge where you are featuring people who put their pronouns on their social media profiles. So tell us about that. I know it was something that launched during this pandemic, right?
Yeah, so on July 14th, which is International Non-Binary People's Day, we're like, we got to do something. So we decided to use social media for social change, asking people to do something digitally and hoping that that will transfer into reality as well. And the simple ask is to put your pronouns into your social media, into your emails, into your Zooms. If you look at our Zoom here, it has our pronouns there. And it's really easy. We also created like how to do that. And we used Instagram to do that. So our Instagram is @Queery Pronoun Challenge if you want to learn more about that.
Yeah, and we also created this little flyer, which I'll show you.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that. You've created this sort of acronym and how to navigate pronouns, right?
Yeah. We thought we wanted what we call a query guide to navigating pronouns. There's a sea of pronouns out there that people use, and we know a lot of people can have trouble with that. So we just made this simple acronym called OAR, O-A-R. And it's basically you want to offer your pronouns to somebody. You want to ask for their pronouns. So you have that. And then respect their pronouns. Just try to use them, when you talk about that person. And it's a real simple thing. If you make a mistake with pronouns, the best way to deal with that is simply, apologize and move on, not to spend a lot of time doing that.
That's great. Pronouns, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and we added a little tip that if you, forget somebody's pronouns, the easiest thing to do is to use their name. So, once you're introduced to them, and you learn their name, just go with that when you talk about them. So.
That's great, because pronouns are something that's still not necessarily kind of in the mainstream conversation and not something that, is always widely talked about and used. So, I always say creating conversation about something eventually creates the change. So that's wonderful.
Through our Queery pronoun challenge, our goal was to get 200 people to update and add pronouns to their, email, social media, and Zoom. And of that, we have 162 people who have posted their pronouns or added them. And the majority of those are through the Queery Pronoun Challenge. So we're seeing some change there. And it's all about just normalizing the use of pronouns. So people kind of get used to that, and it makes it easier and more welcoming for TG, NC, NB people.
We're still learning those acronyms ourselves. That's the beauty of this this project, is that we're learning more as cisgender folks. We're learning more about trans community and what we can do to make things a little easier and better for everyone.
Yeah.
And we're also learning technology. Are you all there to learning about Zoom? And so we're learning how to put the pronouns in and teaching people how to do that. And we're having a lot of individual conversations. So that 162 posts, where people are, that's a lot of conversations. And then they send us pictures of us saying, yay, we did it. And then we post the pictures there on our page.
Yeah.
Now, I want to also talk about, we spent time in our first segment talking about a lot about meditation, and Queery has launched their own meditation sessions in partnership with the Loft LGBT Center, correct?
That's right. That's right. So I'm the facilitation I'm the meditation facilitator there, and we call it Queer Zen. The Loft calls it Calm, and we do it together on Thursday nights at 5:30 every Thursday night. You register through the Loft, and it's there every Thursday night. And we have different themes, and it's about taking a breath and taking it together and connecting with each other. We also meet on Saturday mornings on Instagram Live at Queer Zen Meditation, and all of that's for free. So come join us. And people are coming in from all over too.
Yeah, all over the country.
Before we wrap up, I just want to say, where can everyone find Queery again online?
You can find our website at www.queery.us. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think those are the three. And the other thing is, on Instagram, we have several different accounts. We have our Queery account, queery.us. We also have Queer Zen Meditation. We have Query Pronoun Challenge. And for our holiday cards, we have Queer Mark cards. So it's QUEERMARKCARDS, and that's on Instagram. But you can get these cards from our Query website as well.
Great. Well, thank you both for being here again and continuing to create conversation around the LGBTQ plus community and bringing awareness, to making sure that everyone's respected and just educating everyone in a fun and exciting way. So thank you both for coming back on.
Thank you for having us, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. Be well. And everyone, put your pronouns in your social medias.
Yes. Thanks. And remember that you can stay up to date with all things Out Loud on our website at outloudtalk.com, on Facebook at OutLoudLGBT, on Instagram at OutLoud.tv, and on Twitter at OutLoudLGBTTV. And if you are an LGBTQ plus person or organization based in New York City and would like to come on the show and share your story or the work that you're doing for the community, feel free to submit using the Be on the Show tab at the top of our website. And remember, being your true self is your greatest gift to the world. We'll see you next time here at Out Loud.